Thank you. So good evening, everyone, and welcome. Thanks for taking the time to join this public information session for the New York, New Jersey Harbor and Tributaries study. My name is Jesse Miller, and I'm with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. I'll be facilitating today's meeting. We appreciate your interest in this study, which is focused on addressing coastal storm risk for the region. This study is a collaborative effort between the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the state of New Jersey, and the state of New York in partnership with the city of New York. We'll hear from our two sponsors with opening remarks shortly, but the purpose of today's presentation is to provide you with an update on the study's progress, specifically focusing on the development of actionable elements. These are potential near-term localized projects designed to reduce flood risk. We'll be sharing information about these proposed projects, their potential benefits, and how they were developed. The presentation's around 20 to 30 minutes, and after which we'll have a dedicated question and answer period. I'd encourage you to submit your questions through the chat function, and we'll do our best to address as many questions as possible during the session. If we're not able to get to your question today, we'll collect all of the comments and questions that come up, and responses will be provided in the final report. We are recording this session for those who are unable to attend live. The recording will be posted on the study webpage, and Diana's putting a link into the chat where you can access that webpage. We also have a draft feasibility report that will be available for review starting tomorrow, and that will have a public comment period that will close on August 25th. With that, I'll turn it over to Dennis Reinecht from the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, who will provide some opening remarks, followed by Matt Chelbis from the New York Department of Environmental Conservation. So Dennis, over to you.
Thanks, Jesse. I'm Dennis Reinecht, Director of Resilience Engineering Construction within the Watershed and Land Management Program here at the DEP of New Jersey. I wish to thank the Corps of Engineers for holding this public update on the New York, New Jersey HATS project and for issuing this draft feasibility report for public comment tomorrow. As a non-federal sponsor of an important flood resilience project, I would like to also thank our local partners at New York State and New York City for all their hard work and partnership. But what's the purpose of tonight? It's about community feedback, and it's an important part of this process. We ask that you participate and provide comments during the 30-day open comment period as we review the report along with you. Your feedback will be used to refine the draft report and generate a successful final Chiefs report next year. Again, I want to thank you again for taking up your valuable time to help us make this report better, and we look forward to hearing from you all. And with that, I'd like to hand off to my friend from New York, Matt Chelbis, who will introduce himself.
Hey, Dennis, thank you. Everybody, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Matt Chelbis. I'm the section chief for the coastal program here at the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. To echo what Dennis said, I would also like to thank the Army Corps and our non-federal partners for all the work they've done, both on the comprehensive HAT study throughout the years and the work they've done on these earlier actionable elements. As Dennis said, a public review and participation is an important aspect of these projects. One just additional thing I wanted to note is the Corps, the Army Corps of Engineers has a pretty aggressive schedule to hopefully, right, if everything goes well, and dependent on public comments and sponsor comments, to potentially authorize these projects in the Water and Resources Development Act of 2026. Because of that, they're on a very tight schedule and do not anticipate extending the public comment period past 30 days. So I know for the previous HATS reports, they were extended several times. So I would just ask that as you review the report, right, it is a pretty lengthy report with quite a bit of information. I think the Army Corps is going to try to point you in the right direction in the report throughout the presentation. That just you keep that in mind during your review. So again, thank you to the Army Corps. Thank you to New Jersey and in New York City. New York State DEC will be reviewing the report along with everybody else during the public comment period. And we'll also be providing comments and feedback back to the Army Corps of Engineers. So thank you very much. Over to you, Jesse.
Thanks, Matt, and thanks, Dennis. Now I will turn it over to Bethany McClanahan, our project manager, and Danielle Tomaso, lead planner, to begin the presentation. Bethany, over to you.
Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, everybody, for joining this evening. We're happy to provide this update to you all. So here's the agenda for today's meeting. What we wanted to provide in the presentation today is a brief overview of the study background, where we left off, where we are now, and why. A little about the planning process and the draft proposed plan for the actionable elements, which will be described further down in the presentation. After the presentation, we'll have a question and answer session where the study team will answer your questions and learn about your priorities for action. This presentation, as Jesse noted, is being recorded and will be posted to the study website sometime next week. Okay, so after Hurricane Sandy, as we all know, the East Coast was pretty devastated. The Corps undertook a North Atlantic Coastal Comprehensive Study, or NACS, as it's called, to look at unaddressed coastal storm risk along the entire eastern seaboard. Out of that study came 9 different focus areas, including the New York, New Jersey Harbor and Tributary Study, also known as HATS. As this was an area that had not previously been evaluated comprehensively for coastal storm risk by the Corps. It covers the most highly urbanized and densely populated area of the country, as shown here on the map, which includes the New York City metropolitan area, portions of central and northern New Jersey, Long Island Sound up to the Federal Lock and Dam in Troy, New York. The study, which formally started in July, or was signed July of 2016, was cost shared 50-50 until July of 2022 with New York and New Jersey, who split the non-federal share evenly. But from that point forward, from 2022, the study is being performed at 100% federal expense. Is funded by the Disaster Recovery Supplemental Appropriations Act, DRSA, which was passed in the wake of post-tropical depression Ida in 2021. The study received an initial exemption in 2018 for an increased study cost and schedule, and then a second exemption in April of 2021 for further extension to the study schedule, as the study had been effectively paused in 2020 and 2021 due to lack of federal funding. In late September of 2022, the draft integrated feasibility report and Tier 1 environmental impact statement was released on the study, beginning the public review period. The draft report and all of its multiple appendices can be viewed still on our website. While the study has had extensive public outreach previously in 2017 scoping meetings, as well as the interim report in 2019, the draft report was the first document by the Corps where we identified the plan that we think tentatively might best address remaining coastal storm risk for this complex and vital study area, both now and into the future. Since then, we have rescoped the study to focus on near-term actionable elements. These are near-term localized project recommendations that could be authorized for construction through a potential Water Resource Development Act, or WRDA, ahead of the broader comprehensive plan. This pivot occurred because we feel something small built sooner is better than waiting for a larger project to be built later on. So the actionable elements were proposed in coordination with our sponsors and partners and are aligned with the priorities for this coastal storm risk management project. We do acknowledge that there are still system-wide models and engineering analyses that need to be run to answer the questions on the draft report from 2022. So while we're waiting for that funding to come in, we are moving forward on these local focused CSRM projects, which we are calling actionable elements. That's where we are in 2025. So Actionable elements, as we stated previously, are near-term localized project recommendations that could be authorized for construction through a potential Water Resource Development Act ahead of the broader comprehensive plan. The PDT shifted focus to find actionable elements to include as part of an interim response document in advance of a final Chief of Engineers report for the tentatively selected plan to reach a point of completion to meet the requirements of the DERSA funding. At that time, we are only scoped to look at these actionable elements for potential inclusion into WRDA 26. The current effort advances areas that were in collaboration with New York, New Jersey that have sufficient information to achieve a chief's report according to the existing budget and possible time extension to complete in time for potential construction authorization. These interim reports are being advanced as components of the overall comprehensive plan and will identify the synergies between these actionable elements and the larger comprehensive plan. We can potentially look at additional opportunities for future WRDA in actionable elements, subject to availability of funding.
Okay, thanks, Bethany, and good evening, everyone. My name is Danielle Tomaso, and I'm the Studies Lead Planner. And I would like to share with you how we identified several of these actionable elements that are detailed in the draft report. But first off, I think it's important to understand that when we started this process, we started with a very broad scope and we screened over 100 sites all throughout the study area. This wasn't a quick one-time process. We went through 4 iterations of screening to ensure we were being thorough enough and considering all potential areas and solutions to mitigate flood risk. So to narrow down the initial list of over 100 sites, we used a set of 6 specific selection criteria. And these criteria were carefully chosen to reflect the key study objectives and to ensure that we're prioritizing sites with the greatest potential for inclusion in potential upcoming legislation that could lead to project authorization. And remember, authorization is the permission that Congress gives the Army Corps to construct a project. So the criteria include factors like having the available existing information that would help us to meet our aggressive schedule to make sure any project could be ready for recommendation to Congress soon. It includes being able to achieve full NEPA compliance. It includes making sure how and what we recommend doesn't rely on or influence the decision on the comprehensive plan. These sorts of things are the things that we considered in the screening process. And we do recognize that we need more time and funding to address the comments on the overall plan that was detailed in the 2022 draft report. But like Bethany was saying, in the meantime, while we wait for this, we can move ahead on some of the more localized actions because we recognize that there's a need for near-term actions sooner rather than later. The iterative planning process helped us to focus our resources on the areas where we can make the biggest difference in the amount of time that we have to make this recommendation to Congress. This ensures that the project can be constructed as soon as possible, while in parallel, we wait for funding that's needed to complete the overall comprehensive plan that's going to investigate a broader, more regional approach to reducing flood risk. And I just want to highlight that again, because I think it's a really important point about our planning process, that we're focusing currently on sites that meet these criteria at this time, so we can make a recommendation to Congress next year. That does not mean that other sites are crossed off the list for consideration. It just means that we have the opportunity to identify more sites when we receive additional funding sometime in the future in order to investigate other potential actionable elements in a potential future study phase. I think that's important because that's really why we are here today. Okay, so ultimately, only a few sites met these criteria, and they were chosen as our final group of potential actionable elements. We have 1 site in New Jersey and 2 sites in New York. And the first one I want to share with you is the East Riser actionable element, which is located in the Meadowlands of New Jersey within the Hackensack-Passaic planning region. This project area includes the East Riser ditch channel in Bergen County in the boroughs of Moonachie and Karlstad. It begins at the mouth of the channel where it connects to Barry's Creek, near Stark Road, and extends the entire length of the channel up to Teterboro Airport. This area is very vulnerable to two types of flooding. One is coastal storm flooding from storm surge that comes up the Hackensack River. And then we also have flooding from fluvial events, which are caused by heavy rainfall or river overflows. So we know that these flood events cause significant damage in the area to property, they disrupt our lives, and they pose a great safety risk to residents in the area. So to address these challenges, the proposed project focuses on increasing the conveyance and channel capacity of the East Riser Ditch Channel. So the project includes channel modifications, several culvert replacements, and a railroad bridge replacement. And these proposed improvements are designed to complement the state of New Jersey's planned pump station replacement project. And between the two projects, it's going to significantly enhance the community's resilience to flooding. That's just an overview. If you want more details about this actionable element, I encourage you to look at chapters 4 and chapter 6 in the draft report that will be released tomorrow, and also Appendix B for engineering details. The next actionable element I want to tell you about is the Harlem River actionable element, which is located in the Harlem neighborhood of Manhattan, extending along the Harlem River from just south of the McCombs Dam Bridge to the West Harlem River Drive Service Road. This project presents an opportunity to advance a portion of the combo seawall floodwall project detailed in the September 2022 draft report. And it includes two potential alternatives, one that includes a flood wall and road gates along the shoreline and the Harlem River Drive, and then a second alignment that includes flood walls and road gates more inland in the neighborhood. I do want to note just one important thing about this site. During our analysis, it became very clear to us that we'll need more time to develop a plan that could meet engineering design requirements and other requirements tied to our criteria. And that means that it's not ready yet for potential authorization and legislation like a Water Resources Development Act. There are several reasons for this longer timeline. I think most importantly, we believe that robust public coordination and more engineering analyses are essential to coming up with a really good plan. We want to ensure that the broader efforts along the Harlem River and the expectations of the community are thoroughly considered. And also to note is that the state and city of New York are currently investigating water quality improvements and investing in these, and also looking at ways to create waterfront access in the area. So we want to ensure that what we propose at this site supports these existing efforts and is a holistic improvement to the area. So we're going to continue developing this site for inclusion in a future interim feasibility report that could be recommended for potential congressional authorization. We're going to take the extra time, and that will allow us the opportunity to ensure the development of this site fully supports and enhances the ongoing efforts in community needs. And I'll share that if you want to see the detail about this site, please look at chapters 4 and 6 of the draft report and also Appendix B. And then finally, the last actionable element I want to tell you about is the Oakwood Beach actionable element, which is located in the Lower Bay Planning Region, southeast of Great Kills Park and the Oakwood Beach neighborhood of Staten Island. The project area is between Buffalo Street and the city's Oakwood Beach Wastewater Resource Recovery Facility. This neighborhood, Oakwood Beach, has experienced significant damage from coastal storms and flooding, and this site is designed to mitigate future flood risk. It has a nature-based solution that uses the power of nature to provide benefits to the community and the environment. It includes 3 components. The first is the removal of invasive non-native plants that are not beneficial to the local ecosystem. The second component is the creation of a diverse mix of native plants and tidal channels, and this will act as a natural buffer against storm surge. And then the third component is the restoration and enhancement of existing dunes to provide an additional layer of defense. And if you want to know more about this site, I encourage you to look at chapters 4 and 6 of the draft report and also Appendix B. So what's next? We keep on talking about the draft report. The draft report is going to detail all the information we hear tonight and a lot more in detail. It'll be available on our study website on July 24th. And it tells the story of the screening and selection of the actionable elements, the analyses that we used in their selection. And it also has a lot of engineering and economic and environmental details. So please check out the report if you want to do a deep dive into what you heard today. I'll note that the report is an interim response document, which means that more investigations subject to the availability of funding could lead to the recommendation of additional actionable elements in future interim response process reports. So just thinking about process again and where we're at in it, this is not the this could potentially not be the last word on hats. This is just the first grouping of actionable elements that the Corps is looking at. Subject to the availability of funding in the future, we could look at even more. And I'll also note this report is draft, meaning that the information in it is subject to change based on new information and your feedback. We are committed to keeping you informed and involved throughout the planning process and hearing your feedback on the information in the draft report. I'll say that this public information session is one of a series of meetings we'll be holding over the next month during the draft report's public comment period that closes on August 25th. We'll be holding both in-person and virtual meetings this summer, so stay tuned for those announcements. We're actually asking for your input now about how to schedule these public meetings. You'll see a QR code on this slide, and Diana's putting in the chat a link to the website. Please help us plan the meetings. Go to the website, tell us what you think about how we should schedule the meetings. And if you have ideas about where we could host the meetings, or if you're part of an organization that could help host them, we'd certainly like to talk to you about that. So while people are in full, I'll just go over this infographic on the bottom of the slide that shows what to expect through next summer. We are here at the green box all the way to the left, moving to the second box on July 24th when the draft report comment period begins. We'll spend time in the fall and into next year considering and incorporating your feedback as we further analyze the project before submitting a final report to Army Corps headquarters next March. From there, we expect a Chief of Engineers report with a final recommendation will be signed next June, and then Congress may take action to authorize the project. And beyond what you see on this slide, if you were to keep on going right, is potential future work subject to the availability of funding that could lead to the recommendation of additional actionable elements in future interim response reports. And I mentioned that this public information session is one in a series of meetings we'll be holding over the next month. All the details, including the dates, times, and locations of those meetings, will be posted on the study website and shared via email. There are several ways you can stay up to date on the study progress. The first is to please consider joining our study listserv. I think this is the best way to receive direct updates and announcements. You can also email the study team directly or call Bethany to get in contact with us. Also, check out our website. It's a central place for all things related to the study. You'll find the draft report tomorrow, this presentation, a recording of it, and much more, including a link to the ArcGIS interactive story map, which is a great resource for exploring the actionable elements using interactive maps and graphics. Is a great tool. You want to make sure you have the information you need and your voice is heard. We are committed to keeping you informed and involved throughout the planning process. So please take advantage of these resources and reach out to us if you have an idea, a question, or a concern you'd like us to know.